ASMR Who, and this is my reaction and review of The Robot Revolution, the first episode of this new series here. I hesitate to call it a reaction because I watched this episode yesterday morning. Of course, this series, the release schedule has changed slightly, so we've now got the 8 a.m. iPlayer drops. I work in hospitality, and so was not expecting to get around to watching this episode until today, as it happens, but I did manage to catch it yesterday morning, but then I've not had the chance to really talk about it until now. I have watched some of the behind the scenes stuff. I've watched the Unleashed. I've seen other people's reactions, which I didn't do with the videos last year. I watched them. Obviously, it was the midnight release, and so I watched the episodes, kind of early hours, and then immediately gave my thoughts without seeing other people's reactions. I won't really be able to do that with this series, but that's okay. So it's not necessarily a reaction, but it's also not quite as formally structured as a review. These are just kind of my general thoughts. To give you a brief reminder as well, I suppose, a bit of context for me coming into this season. I thought that the previous season was okay. There were some episodes that I enjoyed well enough, but I think it was overall less than the sum of its parts, and I was not massively enthused by it. I was particularly not enthused by the Christmas special, Joy to the World, which was not terrible. I just felt was a bit tired. So I came into this episode in this new series with little to no expectations, and I thought that it was fun. I thought that it was perfectly fine. I think that, of course, the main draw for this episode is Belinda Chandra, the new companion, played by Varada Sethu. And yeah, she's great. I wish that she was not a nurse purely for the sake that, it really feels like we are repeating companion beats from 20 years ago. Ruby was a lot like Rose. Belinda is a lot like Martha in a kind of broad sense. She is a different character to Martha, of course. And also, Martha is one of my favourite companions, so perhaps Belinda will be a character I really grow to love. We'll see. What I did really like about Belinda, I think, something that is going to be a great throughout the series, and I know I'm not the only one to kind of set this, but is the conflict. It's been said by quite a lot of people, it's quite common criticism of the first series, that there was very little conflict between the Doctor and Ruby. They were just good friends, and whilst that is, entertaining to a certain extent, there was a limit to the kind of dramatic potential in that dynamic, with the exception of Boom, where they're basically just playing the 12th Doctor and Clara. And so, yeah, I thought Ruby as a companion was fine, but there was the lack of conflict there was limiting, as I say, to the kind of the potential of the dynamic. We've got conflict with this dynamic. Belinda is firmly a companion who does not want to be there. She's not interested. She's kind of over the Doctor and his shit, basically. And I really appreciated that. I think especially for this Doctor, that's going to be a really great dynamic. because I think this is a Doctor who's quite fun and he likes to kind of show off. He can be a bit showy, I think, and he's very smiley and very kind of emotionally kind of bare, I suppose. I mean, kind of. I don't mean bare as in. I mean bare as in he's kind of he kind of lays his emotions very openly. And yeah, I think that moment near the end where she kind of calls him out and everything is great, and I hope that we are going to have a really strong dynamic, because that will elevate the stories, you know, regardless of the quality of them. I think that's a big thing with Empire of Death, and The Legend of Ruby Sunday from last series. They're not great episodes, but I think if there was a bit of, you know, a conflict between the Doctor and Ruby there, they would be more palatable, but there isn't. So that was great in this. I mentioned there as well about the Doctor being emotional. There was a moment where I did kind of roll my eyes a little bit, where the Doctor once again was crying. And I've said before, Ncuti is a fantastic on-screen crier. He's a really pretty crier. I understand why you get him to do it, but every episode is too much. I also didn't really feel like we got too much of a connection with the character that he's crying for there, the Sasha 55 character, who, you know, as soon as she makes a comment about travelling away with him, it's like, oh yeah, she's dead. I didn't expect it to happen immediately after the fact. But in a way, I was kind of like, well, I'm glad we're not pretending that she's not going to die. And I appreciate the fact that that then is going to be a sticking point for the Doctor and Belinda. It's not just trying to get a cheap moment for, you know, oh, don't you like this character? No, not, you know, now they're dead. But yeah, I felt that the plot of this was fine. I think the mysteries here, of course, we've got a whole new load of mysteries. So we've still got the mystery of Mrs. Flood, which I'm not particularly interested in. I wasn't last series, I'm still not. She didn't really need to be in this story, aside from, you know, just saying up that she's going to be the mystery again, and the constant fourth wall breaking and everything is a little bit tiresome. But it feels, I think we're going to get her every week this series. We've also got the mystery of why Belinda looks so much like Mundy Flynn. Yeah, whatever, cool. Kind of the mystery of how the robots got her star certificate, which that'll probably be something or nothing. I'm not expecting a big reveal there. But I think the kind of major mystery is, you know, what is stopping the Doctor from getting Belinda home. I'm hoping that will have a satisfying conclusion. We will see. I don't think there's going to be many who are going to get their hopes up given the resolutions from last series. But, you know, we'll see. The other thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and I saw this as a bit of a point of criticism, was this story's take on, as Belinda calls it, Planet of the Incels. Now, I've no problem with making incels the villain of a Doctor Who story and making fun of them. I am not an incel, and I think that they are bad. But I felt that the scene right at the start, where I think that they kind of overdid it near the end. So the scene at the start where you have this Alan character who kind of makes a comment about surface you'd be like, alright mate, but clearly he's implying a viewpoint there. But then later on, when we get the scene of him proposing to Belinda, I mean, like, don't wear certain clothing or whatever he says, that felt a little bit like kind of, for lack of a better expression, kind of being bashed over the head with it. Like, I don't believe that he would be proposing to her. I believe that he might be saying that he would say those things to her, but I don't believe that there will be during a proposal. That felt a little bit kind of heavy-handed, and a little bit like, okay, yeah, we get it. I think it's a little bit unfortunate for this episode and that kind of commentary that it's happened to release not long after Adolescence, the Netflix show, which tackled incel culture so fantastically and so brilliantly and so kind of sensitively, I suppose you might say, and this doesn't do that. I'm not saying that this should be like Adolescence. It shouldn't, but I think that it's kind of it is an unfortunate comparison based on the release timing. The other kind of criticism I saw that I agree with as well, again, this kind of thing of sometimes I think it can sometimes be the case with this era, possibly, but I felt it a few times with that moment, but also the moment where the Doctor first kind of meets Belinda, and he's talking to her, where I felt like the show was kind of really spelling things out. So obviously he does this speech as the historian, but we learn that because of the fault in the robots, they can't hear every ninth word, and he starts this speech and he's clearly emphasising certain words, and he's tuning Belinda into what he's doing, and he's tuning us in to what he's doing, so that when he then gives her the message of like robots faulty, can't hear every ninth word, or whatever, you're paying attention to what he's saying and how he's saying it and how he's emphasising it. And so he does this thing and you get the message, you can hear the message. And then the episode for some reason feels the need to then have a supercut of just all the emphasised words to spell out the sentence in full. And it's like, yeah, I got that because you made me like pay attention, and there's an argument to be made that Doctor Who is a kids show, and so you don't want to make it too complicated. You want the kids to be able to follow along, and that's absolutely true. But I think kids aren't stupid, and I think kids would understand that, and kids would want to play. Kids would be, for me, if I was a kid and I heard the Doctor kind of emphasising certain words, I'd pick up on it, and you'd kind of pay attention to, you'd want to figure out what he's saying, what is his secret message. I don't think we needed, to get just the sentence he's saying in full. It's like, well, that's, I can understand why they did that, because then later on you get the supercut of the words that Alan, this kind of robotised Alan, is saying, where he, it seems like he's very much like, I love this power and I'm all powerful and you'll be with me and all this, and then it kind of supercuts all the words he's saying, and he's like, help me, I'm in pain and everything. And so I understand that for that to kind of work, you do need the initial setup, but in the moment, it felt a little bit like, oh, you didn't need to spell it out. But then I think it's interesting that I kind of only really considered that setup and payoff in talking through it now. So maybe it's not a massive criticism, but in the moment I felt it. I think beyond that, I can't say I have too much else to really talk about with this episode. I thought that it was perfectly serviceable. I didn't love the robots, the way they moved and their design is, it's impressive of course, but they felt a bit CBBC for me, and I understand they're going for the kind of retro aesthetic, the kind of 50s space aesthetic, but and I understand there's a kind of a dumbness to them which it kind of requires, but yeah, not my favourite kind of design. There are other little kind of nitpicks, I suppose, I would have that are kind of, stuff like, I don't love the Doctor saying, making a Padam reference, personally. Just, I think when Doctor Who makes topical references, it makes the Doctor feel like a character from modern day Earth, and he isn't. And I don't, but that's just personal preference, that's not an issue with the episode. Also, there was an inconsistency with the Star Certificate, and they make a point of being like it's exactly the same one, but then Belinda has folded up hers, and it's in her jacket pocket, and so there's 2 crease lines in it because she's folded it. But then the one that is the same one from the future doesn't have the crease lines, and I'm like, how have you got those out? Because it's just a paper thing. It would be, those crease lines are there to stay. That's not how paper works. And similarly, when the Doctor drops it, and it's picked up by the little sweeper robot, and then is given to Belinda, perfectly rolled up, and of course they've done that, and so that you can have the 2 of them kind of touching, and it creates this massive spark. But it's just that's not how paper works. That's not how. But again, that's a nitpick. It's also the thing of when they talked about 2 of the same item being in the same place at the same time, they can't touch and whatever. It made me think of the moment right at the start of the Big Bang where the Doctor and Rory both have the same sonic screwdriver from different points in time, and they tap them together and there's a little spark, but that's it. And again, that's an inconsistency that that's just Doctor Who for you, but it's funny. But yeah, I think those are kind of my thoughts. I like Belinda. I thought that this was a perfectly serviceable opener. Not the best, not the worst. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. I thought that it was perfectly fine. I think that this kids probably would like this episode. I think I'd probably like it as a kid, and that's important. I didn't love the moment where the Doctor tampers with the hospital and switches off a lot of people's life support. That wasn't a good gag, personally. But yeah, we'll see. I'm kind of very cautiously optimistic for this new series. I'm not massively really hyped for next week, but then I'm excited for the new writers. I'm really, really excited to get some new blood in. So I can't wait for the kind of middle chunk of the series with the new writers in, because I think that that's going to be a really great. It's just good to have new writers in, whether or not the stories are, really fantastic, which I hope they are, of course. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So we'll see. But what did you think of the Robot Revolution? Did you enjoy it? Let me know what you thought. Most of these videos for this series are going to be on Sundays rather than Saturdays, kind of as mentioned at the start, just because of my work schedule at the moment, but potentially even Mondays, depending on on rotas and such. But I will endeavour to get them out as quickly as I am able to, basically. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, and yeah, please like the video if you liked it. If you are not subscribed and you like Doctor Who and you like ASMR, then please do subscribe. That would really help me. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week for